this meeting of the Education Committee of the RTM, virtual, starting at 8:16. I've noted the attendance. I will take the minutes for tonight. We have a few guests with us, and I appreciate you guys joining. Somewhat late notice, and also with graduation. Wait, complete, done.
Yes.
Yep,
All right.
successfully.
Yes. Okay. So two things we're gonna discuss tonight: the special appropriation for security, and the operating budget deficit. We will do the special appropriation for security in executive session. So that said, I don't think this committee's ever done an executive session before. So what are we asked? We have to kick the members of the public off? Is that what will happen?
You do. Yeah, Clara. Yeah, Clara knows.
Okay, Clara, yes.
You're muted,
Clara.
Clara, you're muted.
Okay, so you have to call for a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing security. Somebody has to make the motion, second the motion, then we have to vote. And then the people who are left are only the people who are on the committee, and I suppose Dr. Adley and the administrators.
Okay, if there's no objection, could I suggest we do the operating deficit first? Because we do have some residents who've joined, and I hate to ask them to leave and then not necessarily know when to come back on.
Right, that makes sense.
So if Dr. Adley, are you good if we talk about the operating budget deficit memo first?
Absolutely, that's fine.
Okay, so we received it. Thank you very much. I don't know if folks have questions, or maybe you could give us, for anyone who might not have read it ahead of time, just the 1 or 2 minute thumbnail.
Sure. So before you is an appropriation request for 181,000 approximately, and throughout the year, and it was pretty apparent early on that we were going to have additional expenses, especially in special education. So there was I'll let Richard go over the details, but there was basically over $1 million in additional expenses through additional requirements for PPTs, registered behavioral therapists, increase in pupil evaluations, extension of students to age 22, a reduction in the percentage of reimbursement for excess costs and for outplacement. So that came to basically just over $1 million. Then we realized some savings, tried to offset through superintendent adjustments, transfers from the board. They included like health census, turnovers from administrator savings, an elementary section that was under enrolled. And so we reduced that then to essentially to the figure that we're looking for this evening, which is about 181. So we can talk in greater detail if you wish to do that, business managers here. But essentially, we started off at over $1 million. We got it down, reduced it down to the amount that it is now, and we come forward with the request to make that appropriation because we've already have it approved through the Board of Finance, RTM. F&B and Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the committee who has questions? And just please speak up because I can't necessarily see all the hands. Clara, you start. I saw yours, but.
Oh. Okay, so you can hear me, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm glad that you were able to find all these savings, and I appreciate your joining us this evening after a pretty busy afternoon. But I wanted to ask about the finding in RC 8 and 10 of the vacant world language position. I just want to know, I've heard that, it's hard to find teachers for this position and that the classes don't necessarily meet consistently at all the elementary schools. And I guess what I'm wondering is, while it's nice to see the savings, it comes at a much bigger cost. So is this a program that you're planning to reevaluate or perhaps restructure based on the difficulty of finding teachers for world language in the elementary school, just sort of long term? What's the plan for this? Because it seems to me that this says that at least 2 schools, there's no teacher. So that's kind of a concern that I would have about the program itself. I I was really in favor of it when, when it was implemented, but I'm just wondering if it's hit a kind of bumpy road.
I think that there's been discussion off and on just about there's definitely difficulty at the elementary level in particular to hire Spanish teachers at that level. You are correct in that, in the sense of that's an aptitude to that, and it's a something that we struggle with, and something that we continue to work with. But I've honestly no intention to eliminate. I certainly don't have an intention to bring any recommendation forward, certainly in the immediate future, about changing the program at the elementary level. Currently, that's not on the table.
Does that mean that at Tokenique and in RC8, I guess it's Oxbridge, that the program is not meeting?
No, the program is meeting.
They currently have teachers. There was a gap in time when they had teachers at Oxford from the beginning of the school year till about December, and then Tokenique was a little bit later into January, but they currently have teachers.
So you're saying that from the beginning of the year till January, the program was not meeting at Tokenique?
They were meeting, but it was filled with the daily subs.
And you can find subs to do foreign language?
We had subs, and then we also moved department chair for world language down there for a period of time as well.
But she's gone now. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have a
Go ahead,
question.
Katie.
Thank you. This is just a point of clarification for a new committee member. What in the world is soft freeze? It sounds like ice cream, but I don't think.
I'll let the business manager tell you different
Sure.
things off and a hard freeze.
So a soft freeze is essentially, we go out to all the different RCs. We ask them to effectively reforecast. So we had them reforecast from early May through the end of the school year. They have an opportunity to encumber the items they think they're going to need between now and the end of the school year, and the items that aren't encumbered are swept out of the accounts.
Thank you. Much less exciting than I thought it was going to be.
Anyone else? Peter?
Yeah, Ed, I have a question. So I have one question, and then I want to make one comment. The question is, when we found those $900,000 of savings or offset the increase in special education, there's one line item. The last one says superintendent adjustments, 200,000. What is that?
So the board policy allows the superintendent to approve adjustments that stay within broad category. So some of this was PD that we ended up not using. Some of it was some savings we had in transportation. So as long as it stayed within that broad category, it moved to categories like pupil evaluation, and then tuition as well.
Got it. Thank you. And I guess my comment is, this is just another example where special education is sort of bigger than the budget. And I know it's difficult to plan the budget for the whole year, and now it's the last month and all that, and the shortfall is reasonable, but it's, general education is in surplus, special education is in deficit. We understand why, partially, but special education, and in this memo we say on the following page, is that there's additional 1.6 million in out-of-district tuition expected for next year's budget. We pay $10 million for kids to go outside the district, right? Special education is 30 million out of $120 million budget, 25%, right? Darien has 19% of kids in special education, New Canaan is 12. So I would just ask Board of Education to, this is difficult to increase this line item by 10, 12, 15% every year, right? And I would just ask Board of Education to really look into it, whether we need somebody outside, as an outsider, to look into this. I know we had an outsider to look into efficiencies in middle school, but this is really big numbers. We do a lot for the kids. I'm very proud of it, what we do. But the difference versus New Canaan, maybe somebody can simply explain it, maybe not on this call, but whenever I mention it to people, it's just surprising. I don't know why it is, and I don't know. There's a lot of line items, a lot of people doing it. But anyway, I just want to highlight that unless I have a feeling that unless Board of Education proactively looks into that and figures out why we're spending so much money and how does it differ versus the other town, and if it really does, I think the community will balk at it again to have. It implies another 5-6% increase in next year's budget, even before any other good ideas that Dr. Adler will have, right? So anyway, that's just the comment I wanted to make.
Peter, I'll just make the observation that you're relatively correct in your observation of the challenge that it poses between and we want to serve all students. We put them in that bracket, but the reality is that there are expenses under the headings of special education, and they're competing in some cases around the budget. So your basic observation and challenge is correct.
Peter, I would add to that we are certainly aware of it and watching it. I think some of the things that we need to do are look at our general education supports and continue to make sure that those are appropriately robust so that we can catch people with as much general education support as possible before they transition into the general education environment. Again, particularly in the what I'll call the post-remote learning era. I think the second piece is, yes, we'll continue to look at what's happening in special education. We are different from New Canaan in that, we had a complete shakeup of our special education system about 10 years ago, and we knew that the hangover would be about 10 to 15 years in duration for the time that it would take for us to rebuild the program and to redress the needs of students whose needs had grown through that period of time. So we're still in the midst of that period of time. And then lastly, we are a community that is very well educated about how to use special education, and that's one of the outcomes of that period of time. So it is unsurprising that we would have, again, in that post-remote learning environment, a larger number of parents who would understand how to navigate that system to redress gaps in student learning. And so, at the end of the day, we're aware of it, we're watching it. We will continue to do what we can, but there is a certain amount of it that is also out of our control. And so thank you for asking the question.
Thanks for the answer.
Yeah, go ahead, Clara.
In terms of the teacher shortage that is affecting a lot of districts, are you aware of any efforts at the state level to provide for, say, an alternate route to certification or any other incentive that would encourage young people to go into the field, say loan forgiveness or any? Is there any interest in that at the state level? Do you know?
Any of the anything that looks or feels like loan forgiveness or otherwise would really be around the major cities. They have tried it particularly in the certification department to be a wee bit more flexible around certifications and transfers from out of state to in-state staff members. They're also being a wee bit flexible with our kindergarten and elementary certification requirements. So that they are trying. It is a focus for them. It's just a hard conundrum as people don't go into the profession, but they are trying, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, then I'll look for a motion to approve this. Is there a motion? From
Yes.
Katie, is that okay? And Clara, second. Sorry, 1 second, I gotta make some notes. If all in favor, please raise your hand, and if you're not visible, I'm counting, please let me know by I. 1, 2, 3.
Curtis, I.
Liza, voting yes.
Okay, so I'm counting 11, yes. And Meg, are you on the call? No. Okay, any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you, that passes. For Luz Elena, I'm afraid we're gonna have to boot you here as soon as we go into executive session. So someone's gonna make a motion for that. We will then come back out of executive session when we're done, and we will have a public comment and adjournment, which I assure you that will not be very exciting. So if you wanted to come back on, I could text you when we're coming out of executive session, but
I can put you back in the waiting room, and then when the meeting resumes, readmit you if you'd like.
Well, that'd be
Yeah,
perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're going back in the waiting
I
room
hope
now.
it's exciting, actually, when you
These-
gonna come back.
yeah, it's an alternative
Looking
to
forward
Netflix.
to
Okay, is there a motion to move into executive session to discuss the special appropriation for security? Okay,
Yes.
Janet, and second, Ann. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, okay, opposed. Okay, it is now 8:45. We have just returned from executive session. And we have our public back with us. I'm going to make a motion that this committee support the special appropriation for safety enhancements to harden the exterior of the school buildings and to improve communications. Is there a second? Anne? All in favor, please raise your hands or say aye if you're otherwise visible.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Abstentions? No. Okay, that is unanimous. Public comment. Would the public like to make any comment?
Yeah,
Okay, could you please state,
okay.
even though I know your name, but could you please state your name and address for the record?
Okay. My name is Luz Bueno, and I live at 123 Hoyt Street. Thank you for approving the special appropriation for security for the schools. As a mother of two girls, it brings a lot of peace of mind, especially because most of us in Darien became parents later in life. So it's not like our parents and a lot of you that never imagined anything bad could happen to your kids. As we get older, we get anxious and we worry. I have a comment regarding hiring teachers. That is not the problem we have, as we are rather firing and not replacing teachers that are retiring. Because the Board of Finance and Jack Davis colluded to ignore the inflationary environment we're living on, only comparable to the one in the late 1970s and 1980s. They cut the budget the Board of Education presented by $2 million to spend it instead in consulting fees for a second grade island master plan that, if approved on Monday, would cost between $50 and $60 million to implement over 3 years. I mean, I cannot imagine how much are they going to want to cut the school budget if we have to spend between $50 and $60 million to renovate Great Island, which is actually perfect. I don't know if they're thinking they want, like, I don't know, statues of themselves, marble statues of themselves. I have no clue. I would like to urge you to vote against that on Monday so we can properly fund our schools without raising taxes in order to educate the kids and protect property values. I'm doing everything I can to get the new younger residents in Darien to get involved. So the Great Island Special Appropriation, if the Great Island Special Appropriation is approved, it will lead to higher taxes because those young families moved here to have their kids get a good education. That's what they moved here for, because no longer they need to be so close to New York. They could have moved to Wilton, they could have moved to Westport, because they only go to New York a few times a week. So if this is going to happen, they're not going to allow this anymore. This is not going to happen secretive again, like it happened this year, that they quietly moved this
Ms.
forward
Bueno,
and
sorry,
cut the
you're
school
3 minutes.
education.
Ms.
Thank you
sorry.
very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? With that, I think that might be the first public comment that I've had on a virtual meeting. So thank you very much for your comment. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to adjourn? Nobody? Peter, second. Okay, Katie, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Ed. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
you, Ed.